Hey everybody, this is Shannon Mayer.
Hey everybody, this is Brie Vesley.
Hey guys, this is Alexis L. Menard.
This is Jac-Ann Marie, and you're listening to the Blush and Burn podcast.
You're listening to the Blush and Burn Books podcast, where we spread those pages and stir up all the feels from blush-worthy slow burns to heart-pounding spice. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blush and Burn Books podcast. I'm Laura Eakin.
And I'm Annie Baxter.
And today we have our amazing friend on, Miss Jac-Ann Marie. Woohoo! We are so excited to have you on today.
We've been talking about this for a while.
I know.
Yes.
We have been talking about this since we even decided to do author interviews, but trying to get everything squared away. And we wanted to do this in preparation for release of book 2, which is coming out.
Yes.
When this episode gets aired, it will be coming out the next day. So we are so excited to help push this release for you.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys, and for scheduling, according to the release. That's super awesome. I really appreciate it. As an indie author, it's getting the word out is like the hardest part. The marketing, the worst. Like you think becoming an author, you're just going to write your story. There is so much more to it that you don't realize.
You're so good at it, though.
Agreed.
Well, thank you. I try, throw some videos together, some words. I excel at writing words. That part's not the hard part,
Whatever, girl. You're a hustler. Like legit a hustler. Like between being on social media, all platforms, Discord. I mean, literally, your Discord is like, if someone posts something, you are like on it. Like, I think I put in the chat the other day, hey, I'm doing my second reread of Fall the Shadow, and you were like, yeah, like you answered in like 2 seconds, and I was like,
awesome.
That's so awesome. You're on top of it. You pay attention to everything. Not to mention the fact that I think you participate in a lot of different chats, and you're just very present and active. That's a great word. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? Active. You're very active in what's going on in this world.
When you're an author, it's really about, well, for me and for a lot of other authors I know, it's about making the connection, whether it's through the words or interacting with the readers. I really enjoy interacting with the readers. I'm very socially awkward, so it's always like weird for me, but I'm really excited to talk to readers. So when people are in my Discord, which it's mostly for my readers, I have some friends in there too. But when somebody comments, I get really excited because they're reading the book, they're commenting on it, they're talking about it. I put up polls to kind of keep the interaction up, because I just think it's really fun to like keep engaging and kind of keep the story alive even after readers have finished the story. So it's really fun for me. I enjoy it.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job with it. And not only are you active in this Discord, but you're also active on social media as a whole. Anytime I am on, it shows that you are on. You are participating in so much on TikTok. It is fantastic. I know that when I go live, at least in a blip of a moment, you'll come in and you will comment and you interact with us. It's been fantastic. And that's actually how we met you. Yeah. And we really just kind of started talking books in general. And then you're like slyly like, oh, hey, by the way, like the most humble person to be like, oh, by the way, I wrote a book.
Okay, so my approach to social media, it's not, and I feel like I get a little bit turned off when people are like, hey, I wrote a book, go read it, go check it out, go do this. I don't want, it feels disingenuous to make that kind of connection and even to reach out that way. I feel like if we're talking about books and I'm like, I really like books that are in the dark fantasy realm and they have these morally gray, complex characters that are relatable, but you kind of hate them sometimes. And then they're like, oh yeah, me too. And then we can make that connection. And then if I find out that it's something that you would enjoy, then I could be like, hey, you could check out my book if that's something that interests you, here's the information or whatever. But you should establish some kind of connection with somebody before you try to sell them something. And to me, it's not even about making a sale because my books are in Kindle Unlimited. I participate in Stuff Your Kindle events. There's plenty of ways to get my book for free or in a way that doesn't cost money to you. It's more about making the connection with the reader and giving them something that they're going to enjoy their time with. When I get a bad review, well, I say bad, like 3 stars, to me, it's like, I didn't make the connection you were hoping for. It's not really like, oh, you didn't like the book or I didn't write it well enough. It's more like that connection was missed. We missed something somewhere along the way. So I'd really try, like my TikTok, I'm on TikTok a lot. I'm so sorry, my little one in the background.
She's out.
But I'm
They're on
on,
edge.
This is life, man. This is
We love life.
Yeah. This is
it's real.
This is real. This is real life.
So on TikTok, I don't even have 3,000 followers, and it's because I don't really engage in a way that's trying to get me follower counts. Because, like I said, I just feel like that's disingenuous. If you come across my content, it's because your FYP has been built to engage with content that's similar to mine. So you're going to have a much higher chance of making an actual reader or like conversion rate from follower to reader. And that's what my account's about. It's to gain readers and make connections. So if I'm doing like follow trains and stuff like that, you're not interested in my book. You're not interested in interacting with me usually. You're just trying to make a number, and that's not really what it's about. At least for me, I know a lot of people. The follower count is important. I'm not, knocking that at all, but for me,
I
that's not
agree
what it's
with you though. I
agree too.
honestly, I think and if I'm being honest, the algorithms and everything, they just shift so much. It's like I just feel like there's a point where you're chasing it, right? And
Yeah.
it's like when you feel like you can just be like, I'm going to be confident in myself, confident in my book, push out what I want, and hope and you hope that For You page will do its thing and take it where it needs to go. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of stuff on just like, is it the likes? Is it the followers? Is it and if I'm being honest, I just feel like nobody the fuck knows. We just literally no one knows. We don't know. It's just it's like a crapshoot every single time, and you
Every
never know
time.
what video's gonna pop off. Laura had a video pop off about bacon, like really, you just don't know, but you just keep trying because you know that hard work pays off. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think if you're being genuine, that pays off too. Like if you get on there and you're putting on a show, a production of sorts, readers are gonna, or not even readers, viewers, like whoever's looking at your video is gonna kind of pick up on that. If you're just a show, a front, if you're getting on there and you're real, like this podcast, that's what I love about your guys' podcast is you've designed it in a way that it allows authors to come on and be genuine and just chat, and it's not scripted. We just kind of fly by the seat of our pants and chit chat. And that's what I think social media should be about, making those connections. That's what it was meant for and intended for. It wasn't about going viral. Like back when MySpace was a thing, it was to connect with people. And we've kind of gotten away from that as it's gotten popular. But I use it for connections. I use it for finding readers and hopefully people that will connect and enjoy with my books, my content, and me as a person.
Well, and to be real.
It's working.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like just to be real. Like I think there's this like huge lack of like you have your persona, which is like who you're putting out on social media, and then you have like who you are. And like I just which I don't think you do. Just gonna throw that out there.
No, I know.
It's like I feel like if you're okay, I'm gonna start talking with my hands again, and then my camera my camera
every
is like
time
motion, and I'm like a hand talker. I'm like, hey, and then it will like zoom in on my face. Like
it's great.
That's so funny.
It's like Annie, did you want a close up? Anyway, what I was saying is like I just think that there's like a level of like fakeness that is like presented, and it's really hard to get to know people and know if you're getting like that genuine like that real person. And I'm a big believer that you as an author are going to sell your book. Like people will Well, there's a couple different things. One. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go on a rant or anything, but maybe a little. No.
There's a part of me that wonders if I believe you on that, though.
She's like,
I know
Annie's
you well
gearing
enough
up.
to know.
I can hear Annie gearing up for a couple of thoughts.
Just
One,
saying.
your cover will sell your book. It just
Absolutely.
does. Rise to Ruin is beautiful. I love it so much.
I love it too. It's funny. Cover design is a whole other topic. I don't know if you guys want to touch on that and then move on, or if any you want to continue and circle back.
We will definitely be coming back because I want to go over. Listen, Annie, stop it. Okay. I want to go over like your process of going into writing and why you started writing, and then talk about indie publishing, because I feel like you are so knowledgeable there, and you literally, you've helped other people. Like, I've watched it in a live. I've watched it in your comment section. Like, I want to talk about it. So we will talk about cover design, but at the same time, we love your covers as a whole. Annie and I talk about it all the time.
Thank you.
And we talk about how important that is. But I want to come back to that, Annie. She can tell that I'm just like...
Okay, fine, because I want to come back to it, because I want to talk about it and how the red was awesome.
The important part.
The red was a flag. A red flag.
A red flag.
Red flag. Awesome. Okay, so Jac-Ann.
Yes.
When you... Actually, not even when you... What led you to choose to start writing? What was that process like for you?
So I am a mom. I have 3 littles, and I just found myself feeling a little bit like motherhood was consuming me, and not necessarily in a bad way. It was just, that's what I did day in, day out. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and that's what my primary focus was. And I didn't have hobbies. I dedicated myself to the kids. And as they got a little bit older, I just felt myself needing some kind of outlet. At nighttime, I would like put on TV, or I did pick up, I actually read The Mortal Instruments, crazily enough.
Love that series.
Yeah, it was on social media, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't read that book in like years, like 10 years. And so I went on to Libby app, and I blew through the series, got done with that, finished something else, and I was like, you know what? I want to try to write. I didn't want to just sit on my phone, because I read on my phone. I don't have a Kindle. I actually just use the Kindle app on my phone. And so I'd be like reading. I'm like, I just want to do something. I just want to be creative, And I can't really do like the diamond art and stuff like that, because my littles are really little, and I get a little bit weary of, small pieces and such.
Someday, okay?
Like, you know what?
I have hope for you someday, okay? It's like my greatest joy to put in a book and do diamond art for like 3 hours. And my husband's like, so what'd you do today? And I'm like,
we don't ask that question.
Check it out. I will show you what I did. Like, you can see my work. Like, there could be dishes in the sink, and it doesn't matter because I was doing diamond art, zoning out, listening to
I think it's important to have some kind of creative outlet. Whatever medium you want to choose, diamond art, writing, painting, coloring in a coloring book, just something to do a little bit of creative something rather. So I took up writing. I had this idea for the story. I wrote it out on a piece of paper, single piece of paper, scribbled down my plot outline, which was like a handful of sentences. And I was like, I'm just going to start writing it. And I learned so much along the way. When I first started out writing, I knew absolutely nothing other than, a collection of vocabulary words and how to string words together in a sentence. And I wrote down like 10,000 words, and I started reading it back, and I'm like, okay, I'm actually really liking this story. Like, I want to see where it's going to go. And so I kept going. And as I'm writing through this draft, I start getting onto indie author talk, and I'm learning all of this stuff from other indie authors. And there's this group of authors that get together and go live, and they're chatting books, and they're chatting, story structure and all of these different things. And I keep stumbling more into the world until I've just completely dove straight in. I'm completely consumed with learning the craft of writing, and I'm
Wow.
watching blogs and podcasts and listening to it all the time. And all this time I'm writing my story, and I get to, I think 50,000 words is when I finished the draft, the very, very, very rough draft. And I sent it over to an author that was also working on their debut, and we exchanged projects. She looked at my work. She was really excited about it. I mean, there was tons of errors in this draft, like tons and tons and tons. Sentences that didn't make sense, chapters that skipped, like all kinds of craziness. And she read it and she was like, "Hey, I think your story is really great. I can see where your direction is here. You've got something really cool. I can't wait to read the finished product." And that little bit of like reinforcement was just what I needed to hear to be like, okay, maybe I can actually do this. Like maybe I can actually publish a book. So I started going into that and figuring out how to go about publishing a book, because apparently it's easy but not easy. Like anybody can do it, but not everybody can do it, you know? Like the actual
Legit,
steps to
though.
doing it, you
Or
can go
not
on and
everybody should do it.
that is true. Not everybody should.
Yeah.
But still, I'm a firm believer that if you're not good at something, you can work to get better at it, and you can get up to that level if you put in the dedication. My first draft was terrible. It should never see the light of day. I am so thankful for Yolanda who read the book, because it was so bad. I'm almost embarrassed to be like, "Oh yeah, that's what you read."
You're like, oh yeah, about that.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
But I think it's really important to have people that you can trust enough to see that vulnerable side of your projects, whatever it is, and give you that little bit of encouragement, not to toot your horn and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever read. You definitely need to publish that." But just to be like, "I see promise. I see intent. I see where this could be. And I'm excited for that." And that is going to be the most encouraging thing for people. It doesn't mean that you have to love everything that you read or that everything made sense. You know, that's not what it means. It's just, I see where you're going. I see where you could go. And having somebody say that to me was everything. And so whenever I can, I try to do that to other people. If I get an opportunity to beta read, critique partner, even just look over like a couple paragraphs or something, I'm always trying to give somebody else that same feeling, because it was everything to me, and I wouldn't be where I'm at now without having experienced that.
Let's
So-
talk. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Laura.
Fine.
I have
No,
a question.
no,
I'll
you
keep
go
it right
first.
here. I'll keep it right here.
You go first.
Okay, so you're writing Fall the Shadow.
Mhm.
You have to get it edited, right? So you have it, you've
Mhm.
got Yolanda. Thank God for Yolanda. Did you already start doing like, okay, I'm going to start creating these groups, because this is what people do, right? They start creating their groups, they start creating their alpha reads, they start creating their betas, they start creating all these little groups, and to help make the book work, right? Because you need that direction. Who are the people that helped you actually create that direction? Because I do think that that's important, as we've kind of gotten to know some other authors, obviously. The editing process is legit, right?
It's
it is, and your editor can either help your book or not help your book. And finding that right editor and that right person to have the same vision that you have, but also encourage constructive criticism, and actually really know what they're talking about. Maybe we can talk a little bit about like your editing process and your editor, because I do know who your editor is, and
We
so
definitely know.
but I don't know.
who she is.
But I don't know if she actually edited Fall the Shadow.
Yeah. So Fall the Shadow had a very different process than what Rise of Ruin has gone through. I've refined my process and what works for me. Fall the Shadow was just like, I was sorry.
Yeah, you're ready. Let's go. We're ready. Oh, sorry, the camera moved. Come back, camera. Camera, come back. There we go. Laura's leading. Laura's like, if I lead too, Annie's camera will turn.
I'll get you back in the frame.
That's too funny. So for Fall to Shadow, my process was basically anybody who's willing to read my book, I am down for it. So I had tons of beta readers for Fall to Shadow, and it's kind of funny. I wasn't really sure how to navigate getting feedback. I knew that I needed it, and I was really excited for it. But when you get this feedback and you have 3 or 4 people reading the same draft, like the same version, and they have these conflicting opinions, like, oh, this was really action packed. Oh, this was really slow. The pacing was off. You're like, okay, what do I do? Like, how do I fix that? You guys are seeing opposite things. So it was really hard to try to filter through everything that they were saying. And I had an idea of what I wanted to happen in the story, and I knew that I needed more ways to connect the different pieces. So when people would point out like, hey, how did this happen, or how did we get here, that's what I focused on, and I connected the pieces that way. And I kind of, those big broad opinions like, oh, the pacing was off, or oh, I thought it was really action packed, I kind of took as just not like with a grain of salt, but more like, okay, some readers are gonna get that from this book. It wasn't something necessarily that I needed to change, because having it action packed and having the beginning be slow is okay. You know, like it's okay to have action packed and for somebody to be excited that it was, you know, one thing, then one thing, then one thing, especially towards the end. I know a lot of people thought the last half of my book, Fall to Shadow, was really ramping up towards the climax and kind of explosive towards that last half, but the beginning was slow. And I took a step back and I'm like, I'm okay with people thinking that the beginning is slow, and not to dismiss and be like, oh, well, I'm just going to do what I want. It's more about taking the feedback and taking a step back and saying, okay, what do I want readers to get out of this experience? And slowly making your way through the story in the beginning, connecting to the characters, because there's 4 point of views. That's a lot.
Yeah, the beginning half of Fall to Shadow, you're connecting. It's a full, you're fully connecting with each character, and you're trying to figure out how they're all going to be, how they're all going to interact together in this world that you are creating. And you're creating, if Fall to Shadow is a I want to almost call it like a journey, right? It's almost like a journey. So you're creating this, the relationships as beforehand, because everybody ends up kind of doing their thing so that they can all come together. You know, it's like the beginning is so important to create that the relationships so that they can grow and they can have their character arcs.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of novels are kind of almost shying away from, especially with, like, you know, technology exploding. Our attention spans are so small now. You have like 7 seconds or something to hook somebody on like TikTok. And then the same things, it's translating into the fiction space also, to where the best, like the most common writing advice that I've heard across all the platforms is to start in the action. And that doesn't mean like start in the middle of a crazy scene. It just means like start with something that the characters are doing, some kind of conflict. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be small. It could be, you know, internal. It just has to be something interesting, because you're going to lose readers on that first page. You have page 1 to hook readers. But you also have to establish that character and root the readers in the world and the characters, because otherwise they're not going to care later on. They're going to be like, okay, well, this is happening, but I could care less about this character. Like, why are we even talking about them? So that's Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that that's why yours like has that growth and why that's important, because I think that having that like character growth in general is actually what gets me into a fantasy adventure story.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was saying. Like, you need to be able to take a step back when you're getting feedback from beta readers, alpha readers, ARC readers, even. Take a step back and look at the overall picture that they're getting from your book, and take a step back and see, like, okay, am I okay with this? Is this my intention? Are they getting what I wanted from this book? Because if they're not, then you obviously missed something. So if I wanted somebody to think that this book is action packed, and half of my readers are saying that the beginning is slow, I would be like, okay, I need to go in and I need to ramp up the tension somehow, somewhere. But to me, I'm setting up book one, Fall Shadow, is setting up the trilogy. And it's a very character driven story. The characters and their development and their stories was more of a focus and importance to me versus the plot. There's tons of plot happening, like especially you get into Rise of Ruin, there's a lot of things going on. But to me, it's important for the characters, their journey that they're taking, their character arcs, their character growth, the connections, the relationships, all of that is kind of my intention. So if people are saying that they really liked the characters, then I feel like I've done my job and my intention was met in the writing.
Rise to Ruin, I love the way it begins because you did this really cool thing where we kind of go back just a little bit, right? Not a lot. We kind of jump into this last scene a little bit. And I thought that when I read it, I almost got excited because I got excited because I was like, okay, cool. Like I've read Fall the Shadow already. I read it last year, loved it, raved about it. And then I reread it again so that I could have it ready for Rise to Ruin because I really, I read it in my Kindle and I wanted to get it. I have it, my book now, my trophy version. Although I call it my trophy, but I'm actually starting to like mark in it. So, which is, like, okay,
It's so hard.
This in here.
It's not easy.
No, but I'm never gonna forget something you said to me. I have this Brandon Sanderson book, and I don't know if you remember you remember this comment, but I was like, I found it used at our local thrift store and it was signed, and I was so ecstatic that I found it signed, but I was like, I was so mad that someone beat it up. And I remember you saying, I would be so proud if someone beat up one of my books enough that they've either read it that many times or they loved it that much that they carried it with them in their purse or whatever, and they took it with them everywhere they went. And I was like, that is such a cool statement because I never thought about it like that. I was always like, don't hurt it. But I love that thought that it could be like really well loved. So I actually, for my second one, I was like, okay, I'm going to mark it. So I went through and
she's been loving on it.
Yeah, I did. I've been loving on it. And so, but what I loved is that it, excuse me, you jump back just a little bit, right? Where, we're almost replaying the last scenes that happen in Fall the Shadow. But what we're doing is we're doing it in another POV. Yes. So you don't know that POV at the end of Fall the Shadow. So you see a whole nother perspective, which I love because I love when there's stuff you don't know and then you find it out later. And so it's already setting the scene for Rise to Ruin, and you're like, okay. Like there's more to this. There's more to these characters that maybe you didn't love at the beginning, but you're hopefully
I feel like saying
they're gonna redeem themselves
a little bit like that you maybe didn't love.
Well, listen, I am a sucker for a redeeming arc. Like I can't listen. I almost think every book should be like that. I agree. Because I think it leaves so much room for like character development and a story and to watch. And that's like the whole fun of it is like reading the story and watching the character evolve and develop over time. You know what I mean? So anyway, I love how you did the beginning of Rise to Ruin.
Thank you.
I'm 30% in, so I haven't got all the way through.
Okay.
But I'm loving the beginning of this because it's just a great continuation to the development of the world too. So because the world has changed now, and now we're watching what the consequences of what happened in Fall to Shadow. We're watching what's gonna continue into Rise of Ruin and how they're gonna fix the problems. I don't ever know. It's like, am I spoiling or not?
I know.
Jeez, it's like I want to
try to be
spoil,
really careful,
but I don't.
Marketing book 2 is so difficult, especially with how things end in Fall to Shadow. It's really difficult. I really struggled with that in the beginning, and then I just realized I just don't need to tell certain details, and kind of shied away from that in marketing. But the prologue for Rise of Ruin, it's becoming an increasingly popular thing to have recaps in the beginning of stories that have series. I've seen quite a few authors do this. Quite a few readers have, taken to social media to petition authors to create this recap because our TBRs are long. We read book 1 and then a year later book 2 comes out, and now you either are stuck like trying to stumble through book 2 or rereading book 1. And so it's really frustrating to be in that position and have to kind of decide like, oh, I already read this book. I don't really want to read it again, but I need to read book 2. And, it's just annoying. I don't have time for that. So I wanted to a way to incorporate a recap, but not just have it as a one sheet synopsis.
No, it was so smart. Oh, when you did it, I was like, oh my God, this girl's genius. This is going to be great. Like, this is perfect. I've never seen it before. So
I haven't
I think it's great. And a lot of people actually skip prologues. So technically, if they didn't read that prologue, they would still be okay. Starting chapter 1, they still wouldn't really miss anything. They would just miss that recap. It's important also because you do get, that different perspective, and it sets things up for the other character. But I try to do it in a way that if they did skip it, keeping that in mind that some readers do that, which is crazy, but they do.
Insane.
That they would be okay and the story would be the same for them. But I wanted to have that recap situation happen.
No, it was awesome.
I don't think you've read the whole book if you skip the prologue. I don't think that's how that works.
Agreed. I can't imagine skipping
the prologue, the epilogue, the afterword and forward, and like the acknowledgments. Like, it's a thing, I guess. I can't do it. I can't do it. I need to know the whole story.
There's no way.
Yeah, but I just feel like you're missing information. And honestly, I do think you'll miss a little bit of information. It was so smart, and it got me excited. That's what I want, okay? That's actually what I want in a prologue. Like, the whole point of a prologue is to create the hook, right? Mm-hmm. Almost like
to rehook you.
Yeah, you have to get rehooked again to the second book because it's, and I'm a big believer in the hook.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think that that's just really, really important to have. And if I don't have it in the first, like, I don't know, I would say 5 chapters, I'm going, I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're going. I need to know where we're going because if not, it's just a story. And I don't mind a good story. I'm here for a good story, but the hook is where it's at. And so you've created the hook in Rise to Ruin right there in the prologue, because now you're trying to figure out the whole
the dynamic shifts. Like getting that prologue, the dynamic, you're like, wait a second, hold on. And the dynamic is shifting for the character, it's shifting, but for the reader's perspective, now that you're like because in Fall to Shadow, you get Culver's point of view, but it's very surface level. Like, it's just his part of the story that's being told. And it's very brief. I think his chapters are like 600 words, 1,000 words, maybe 1,200. It's really short.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, the first one was way short. And then left me being like, what just happened?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I love those chapters. When you end and you're like, wait, what is happening? I love that. Because I'm like, okay, I'm terrible. I will make an admission here. When I'm reading certain books, there are POVs that I do not enjoy. And so when I am at the end of a POV and I am leaving off and I'm like really excited or something crazy has happened, and then we go into this other POV, I'm like, oh my good Lord. And so I have to like skip forward. I skip the POV and I look and I peek and see what's going to happen. And I'm like, okay. Go back. Read the POV. I have to read the whole story, so I don't like fully skip the POV that I don't like, but I will like go and peek ahead, like, okay, where are we going here?
Oh, that's
and then
great.
you'd be like, okay, now that I have context, we're just gonna skip.
Yes, I have to know what's going to happen. I'm a binge reader, so when I start a book, I devour it. Like I will read a single 500-page book in like 2 days, and that's being a mom. So I'm like walking around with my phone or my physical book, like
I
you
can
know,
see
cleaning up
you
toys
doing
in
that.
one hand, book in
Oh,
another.
I can see you doing that. That's totes you. I can see
So
it.
I 100% have to know what's going to happen, and so I am terrible. I peek ahead. I'm awful. But I did the same thing in Rise of Ruin. I have some chapters that definitely leave off on some intense things that are happening, but I tried to match the level of intensity that's happening in the next chapter. So you're not like getting ramped up to like be shot down to the ground, because that's really jarring. And hopefully hopefully nobody skips POVs, you know, they don't feel the need to skip ahead.
Although I have a little bit of an admission, okay? And I'm gonna sit up for this one.
I think your boob wanted to make itself known as well.
I'm nervous reading Rise to Ruin, and I'm gonna tell you why. I was worried that and I'm still worried that somewhere along the line you're gonna rip my heart out somewhere, just because. And I don't want to look at your face because I don't want to give anything away, but I'm a little nervous because that you're either gonna leave me on a real big cliffhanger, or
rip her heart out.
Rip my heart out
called
somewhere.
Me and was like, I just finished Fall of the Shadow. And I was like, awesome, great. Are you going right into Rise of Ruin? And she goes, oh no.
I need just a minute.
I need a minute.
Because I'm worried.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Because I think you have it in you, my dear, to do that to me a little bit, okay?
It is dark fantasy for a reason. There are some very traumatic things that happen. If anybody that's tuning in has not heard of these books and wants to check them out, definitely check, you know, the content warnings. It's in the front of the books, 100%. And I put down there everything that I could think of to warn you about. I put on there just to cover my bases, because I don't want anybody to ever be like, you know, wow, this happened out of left field, I wasn't expecting that, and be upset about it. So definitely check that. But I also feel like not every story needs to have a warm, fuzzy, good feeling, happy ending. I don't feel like that's really relatable. It's a fantasy, and it's kind of funny because I'm writing a fantasy, but it's dark fantasy for a reason. I will not say how either of these end and spoil it for anybody, but I think that people will be happy with the ending because it will make sense. I think, and even speaking to the end of the trilogy, which I already have outlined and started, I think that things happen the way that they should in life, and hopefully in this book is what people will take away from it. They will think that the steps that we've taken along the way to get to this climax will make sense, and maybe it's not warm, good, fuzzy, happy feelings, but it's closure and it's acceptance and it's almost hope. There's an underlying theme of hope throughout the whole series. There's you have like these light fae and this dark fae, and there's a lot of things happening, and the characters throughout the book do kind of lose sight of that, and you get to kind of watch them climb back to that, and the ending will definitely give you that same sense. The theme of the book will carry through the series.
Well, I mean,
hopefully that was explanation enough.
Nope, I see where you're going. Okay, I see it.
I can see it too, even where I'm at, and I can see the process.
I can see where we're going, and I will be happy with whatever you do. But there is also something to note. You wrote a spicy scene that I've already read in Rise to Ruin. Let's talk about spice, Jac-Ann. Let's go there, shall we? Let's go there.
Is Flesh and Burn podcast, so
how are we not going to talk about it? We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
So there are 2 scenes in Fall to Shadow, and both of the scenes are intended to take something very different away. It's very much, I don't market this as a romance book. there's romantic elements in it, which is why I consider it romantic fantasy, because you're really focused on their relationships and the different things that are happening with that. But it also didn't seem right to not include some spicy scenes, because the way that the Dark Fae Kingdom is and their culture, it spoke to having a certain outlook.
For sure.
I won't say, like, I won't spoil things and whatnot, but it seemed like it would fit for the character to have some kind of interaction that was almost meaningless. It's
Absolutely.
it's
Culture
intended
wise,
to come off that way, and it really shows, I think, the culture and the character and
For sure.
the way that he has had his upbringing, and like I'm talking about Raiv for anybody else listening in, our MMC in the story, and he has grown up in the Dark Fae Kingdom, and he has these preconceptions of what's right and wrong, and he's been taught that because he lives in this specific place, and his father is the king, and he is raised this way, and he doesn't see anything wrong with it. That's what life is for him.
right?
And so he has this interaction, and it's kind of like, what is happening here? I feel like it almost takes you out of the story, but it makes enough sense to make sense, and you get that. You're like, oh, okay, so this is where we're
it
at.
helps establish what that lifestyle is like, and that culture is like, growing up in the lifestyle that was like created for him, and that and it is a little bit of a darker, like, he grew up in a darker atmosphere, not to the point that it was like, I mean, it was dark. There were dark themes. Right? Yeah.
We do recommend it being for anybody 18 and above.
Yes,
due
for
to
sure.
the dark nature of this book.
Yes.
I mean, he is dark fae.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest.
He's the
like,
Dark Prince.
And then there's light fae. Like, come on. It's like,
yes.
I feel like that was pretty light. Yeah.
So then you get, towards, I won't say when it is in the scene, in the book, but there's another spicy scene in Fall to Shadow, and it's more about kind of the character that is involved. You're seeing him kind of let go, and there's a very specific opportunity that he has, that other things are happening that kind of allow him this freedom to be like, oh, this is a connection that I could make with somebody. And they have this connection right after something traumatic has happened. And it makes sense on a surface level because of the events that are going on. There are certain things that make this situation come about, but it also, on a deeper level, it helps this character kind of have this moment where they're like, oh, I can have more than what I've had before. I can have
like
a deeper
real connection, right?
Yeah.
Like real, and you feel it in that scene.
Yeah.
That it is like they're connecting on another level. And I feel like there was a little bit of an innocence in it, a little like that I really enjoyed, kind of like that, like, first exploration of two people together, and it can be really vulnerable, and that's what I thought that scene kind of portrayed.
Yeah, and that was kind of it was the intention to like have this almost like juxtaposition of the first spicy scene with this other spicy scene, and you can kind of see the character growth from this point to this point. I'm talking with my hand, sorry.
Listen.
But we talk with our hands all day.
Doesn't make your camera move.
Yeah, Annie's does. So if her camera's going, then we know.
But I think spice in books, and this includes spice, smut, romance, whatever level that your book is. This is to the authors and even to readers. You have to have a specific intention to having these scenes. Otherwise, it just comes off as what it is, And some people do read it for that reason, and that's totally fine and acceptable. But for most stories, I feel like it just makes it a better reading experience if there's some kind of intention behind it, and it moves the plot or the character arc forward in some way. So I was very intentional with the scenes in Fall to Shadow. In Rise of Ruin, there's a scene, and it also kind of is a continuation of the characters. I won't say much. 'cause
Listen,
wanna
I
spoil-
liked it. I liked it. I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, I knew you had it in you, Jac-Ann. This is awesome. Like, it was great.
It was
And
like the
I
only
liked it.
so the thing, like talking about intent with the spiciness, you can't have like a battle raging around and then you're in this tent and then you're doing something while people around you are unaliving. And I'm talking about a specific book that's very popular that just makes no sense to me. And I didn't want that to be how somebody felt about my book. I didn't want them to be like, they're questing on in Fall to Shadow. They're questing for a lot of it. And it just seemed weird if that's what's happening along the way. There's one scene, like I said, that it does happen, but specific things kind of bring that about. It's very intentional. If you're just doing it out of nowhere, then it's kind of like, what are we doing here? Like,
What are we
you
doing
haven't
here?
showered in
Why?
days. We're
Oh my
dirty.
gosh, that's my
It's-
biggest complaint.
I mean,
right?
really?
My
It just
biggest
doesn't make
complaint in
sense
a
It's
to
so
me.
book.
gross. It's so gross. Well,
I'm just gonna come right out and say it. No one's gonna want to deal with that.
Yeah.
No.
Like
Right?
no one. Book
No.
character,
Oh, goodness.
fictional being, human.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to deal with that. Everybody wants to be clean and be dealing with a clean body.
Yes.
At least
Right.
relatively clean.
It has to make sense. The scenes have to make sense.
Yes.
In Rise to Ruin, the scene really makes sense in the fact
good.
that you're also establishing this relationship that is present. It's there, and the relationship has developed, obviously, even like into a friendship and more than a friendship. And
Obviously.
I like and I like to see that though. Like I like that that you're watching that, but I also like that there's feelings about it, right? And like real feelings of like they're being vulnerable again, and and it's so hard to not do spoilers. I
know,
swear
right?
on all that's holy. It's like I have to like think in my head, like I'm like really thinking, like don't say it out loud. I just really liked it. I thought it was purposeful. I thought it was done so tastefully that it was like, I just liked it. I thought you did a great job. I hope there's a couple more.
I like I said, I feel like spiciness needs to have intention behind it. It has to make sense for the characters, for the world, for all of the things. It has to line up to make sense and to resonate with readers. Otherwise, you're gonna pull readers out of that story. For the spiciness that is going to be in this series, it's going to be more about establishing dynamics between characters and their relationship. And I think that that's, most scenes should be like that. In my opinion. But I also really like having the spicy scenes, or the not even spicy, they're romantic scenes where the characters can be vulnerable in a different kind of way. And I feel like those are almost just as important, if not more important. Those scenes that kind of root you in the relationship and you get to understand where these people are coming from and why they're making these choices with regards to like their relationship. I feel like it's really important to, especially if you have really dark themes that are happening and the world is really dark, you have to have like some kind of a hope. You have to have something for the readers to kind of latch onto and be like, I just want this person to get a happy ending. I just want this person to get something that goes right for them. And I think having those small, quiet, romantic scenes can really help establish that hope for the characters and for the readers, and kind of drive you forward and keep you connected to the relationship as you're going through. Because if it's just all spiced, you're kind of like, okay, like, yeah, this is great, and this is really well written, but like, where are we going? What are we gonna do after this? And then it's just more of the same, and you're kind of like, and then you finish the book and you're like, nothing happened. Like,
I had
that
one
was
of
kind
those
of like,
where it was just like,
I know.
Oh, we're just doing this all the time.
Yeah,
I know.
I intend to do more. I just
I love it.
think you can do more and you should do more. And even if you're writing a very short, spicy novella, you can still incorporate those deeper connections and deeper relationships.
And that's what I'm there for.
I agree.
That's what I'm there for. And I think your readers can read it, and it just creates a little bit more depth into your story. So
I agree. Pause. Also, if anybody knows of any events in North Carolina or surrounding area, please let us know. We need to get Jac-Ann a place in.
Does she want to do signings?
Do like a signing thing, and or just to attend for a day, so that she can like go out and we can be like, you can get like little cards done and like pass them out. So that we need character art.
She was closer before she moved.
I know. We need you closer to us so that we can help facilitate assistance.
You know where you need to go to that one that
is in Tennessee, but
is in Tennessee
in November. But
that's closer.
Jac-Ann and I had a discussion about this because I said, Jac-Ann, you need to get to these events, and she goes, not yet, because her son can't travel.
Yeah. So
like
I do plan on
really
attending events. I love events and I love connecting with readers and connecting with people, even though I'm like really socially awkward and I get really anxious. I do love it. So I definitely plan to attend some really fun events, and I've been looking at calendars and, you know, keeping an eye on prices and budgets for things. And I have all of that kind of going in the background. So I definitely will be somewhere sometime.
What if you were like able to do you have any like local, okay, I know we'll cut this if we need to. It's fine.
Well, okay, here's what's cool. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No, I'm just saying, like, we need to see if there's like any local bookstores to you that you can go for like the afternoon and just do like a signing. Just like or like a place that you can drop your book in that brings in indie authors, because I think that could be absolutely huge for you.
Yeah, I definitely, I've been looking, we just moved here, so we were still getting kind of acclimated. We've been here for a little while now, and we're getting my sons situated. And I'm definitely going to be reaching out to some really cool bookstores that are local to me that I think would, you know, carry my book, but also would have the kind of readers. Because even if you agree to having a bookstore, a small bookstore, carry your book, that doesn't mean that you're going to be selling them if they're primarily in an area that sells nonfiction or, you know, romance books. So you have to be intentional with where you're making your connections. If they never sell fantasy books, they have them, but they don't sell them. It's kind of like, I'm not going to find
planted
readers.
in pages.
Books.
We need to get you into planted.
What if they could do fantasy books and like these like game stores? Like my
that would be
kids are
cool.
like huge gamers, like board, like all the like board games, and they sell like magic cards, and they sell like Pokemon cards. They like have all the cards. It's like, to me, it seems like those are like some of the best places to have like these fantasy like setting these books, because like that's what these kids are doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple of places that I've seen. They're not local to me, but they're places that have been crafted around D&D. So you have fiction fantasy books that are sold there. You have all of the D&D, you know,
that's
gear.
my life.
And then you also have drinks and coffee. So you can go there in the morning, you can go there in the evening, and either way you're going to have a good time. And it's so cool. We need to have more of them.
Yeah, we do.
I usually have a D&D group here on Fridays and Saturday nights. Okay.
She has a giant D&D room in her basement.
2 different groups of kids. They come on different nights, and we had to stop doing it Sunday nights though, because everybody needs to go to work on Monday, and nobody wanted to leave until like 1:00 in the morning. And I'm like, listen, all
y'all
you
have
kids,
jobs. You got to go.
They all have jobs though. So I'm like, you guys all have jobs. Like, if we can't get my camera over.
That's so fun though. Like, I love having the opportunity to have like people come together and have a great time. D&D, reading a book club. Book clubs are so much fun to me. I ran a book club before I moved away from my last state, and it was so fun organizing. Just like, I would do like questionnaires. I would do like fun little like crosswords, because I think it's really cool when you have like little things that you know only if you know. You know,
that is a great.
We do know. Actually, we do know.
Oh,
it's so much fun. Like, we did a Fourth Wing one because Fourth Wing was really big, you know, when it came out. And our book club did Fourth Wing, and I did the, you know,
Annie's
whatchamacallit.
taking
And
notes.
we had this
I did.
snack table, and on the snack table, I did orange slices, which you only know that that's a thing that happens in the book if you've read the book and you know that
That's
somebody is
cool.
allergic to them.
I love it.
So I just think it's really fun to like make those kind of connections. And even if you don't remember when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, I remember that, you know? So it's really fun. I love that. And I really want to go to like conventions and stuff and do that kind of same fun stuff for my readers that connect with me.
So
That's
this
in the works.
weekend
It's
we're
planned.
going to Enemies and Lovers down in Mesa, Arizona. We're really excited about it. We met Bree. We interviewed Bree.
Yes,
and
that's
I have gamed with her a couple of times.
That's awesome.
She's amazing, and I really enjoy her, and I really hope this goes well for her. She's got some heavy hitters coming.
Yeah, she
Oh,
does.
And
especially after
I
this
think-
last weekend. Oh,
yeah, I know. I think she's got it
Oh,
on.
great.
I think she's got it. I think she's got it down. This last weekend sounded like it was a mess in a couple
Yeah.
for one that it literally, it actually breaks my heart. It's really sad to see something like that happen. But we're going down with so there's 4 of us going down, and one of them is a girl from book club, and she wrote a billionaire romance called Twisted Truth.
Yes.
And
Jac-Ann's in
Aubrey-
book club.
Yes.
I know.
But for everybody else out there,
Yes.
I'm really excited, and I'm excited to watch her go through this. So hopefully we
exciting.
can maybe pass on things that we
Yes,
we'll
know
pass
that's
you over
great.
information.
or that we learned while we're going.
Oh,
Because I think we'll probably help her set up a little bit, and
That's so exciting.
not be present the whole time, but you know, we can be there and be supportive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can pass on some
Yes.
things that we
Impair
some
the knowledge
tips
to me.
that we've like learned along the way. So
That's
yeah.
so exciting. I think it's such a cool opportunity to like just connect with people on a real level, like in real person, real life. Social media can be you're distant, you know, like you're connected.
Yeah.
You're trying to gauge if you like this person and what they're bringing to the table. Even if they're writing, like you still get their personality through the writing most of the time, and
Totally.
it's hard to gauge that from social media. Like people put on such a pretty polished face that it's, especially like us indie authors, like we really, really, really just want readers to read our stories. So we want to try to get you to read our story as much as we can. And sometimes it comes off disingenuous and you lose people that way. But if you were to meet the same person in person, you could see that how they actually are in real life isn't really what's necessarily portrayed in social media. And you can make a connection a lot better.
I
Agreed.
I am excited.
That's so cool. I'm
I just think
excited
it's
for her.
fun.
It'll be
Oh.
really exciting. I can't wait to
I
meet
am
you in a
pumped for her.
freaking event, though. We will make it happen.
I know.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do it.
It'll happen. Someday it'll happen.
So after our potty break, we kind of took a left turn. So
Yes.
I want to get back because I want to talk about your actually like.
surprise! I
yeah.
am not shocked at all.
Nor am I, as a matter of fact. Nor am I. But I want to talk a little bit about like the actual publishing part and the process that you went through with that, and with what you learned from book 1 to what you implemented for book 2.
I would love to know that, actually.
So the publishing process for book 1, I had no idea what I was doing. There are tons of different ways to go about doing things for self-publishing. There's different companies that you can use. You can use Amazon KDP, you can use Ingram Spark, you can go through Barnes and Noble. There's Draft to Digital. There's all these different things, and it can be really, really overwhelming, especially if you're brand new, like you've never even read an indie author book, and you have no idea what this is. Like self-publishing, what is that? And so it's a lot of information to take in. If anybody's listening in and they're an author in that position where you're just stumbling into this, I highly recommend making connections with other indie authors that have had the experience with these companies. Most of us, if we get a message in our DMs and it's a new author and they're like, hey, I see that, you're published with Amazon. How did that go for you? We are more than happy to share that knowledge because it is crazy to try to make a decision. For me personally, I published through Amazon KDP and I'm just published through them. I used their free ISBN. It was very easy for me to just plug in the information that, about my book and click a button. And then you upload your files, whether it's your cover, your manuscript, and then, you make your decisions on like your size and your font and all that kind of stuff. And then
is that overwhelming though? Like in that part of the process, is it overwhelming to be like, okay, some people want cream colored paper and other people are like, I don't care, I need white colored paper? Because listen, I'm one of those people because white paper hurts my eyes.
I can't do the bright white. That's what, like, the one thing I don't like about my favorite book ever, Anathema, the bright white pages. I'm like, no, it's bright white.
What? I'm sorry, Nocticadia came that way too.
Oh my goodness.
I actually just
apparently it's a genre thing because it's gothic fantasy and dark academia also. They are known for having the white pages. Like,
that's
so
interesting.
Because I looked into that because my top secret project is in the dark fantasy, gothic fantasy realm. And I was doing a little bit of research and it's actually common to have the bright white pages. And I don't know if I could do it.
I did not know that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I'm gonna find a couple more of my like dark romances. Like I feel like I kind of want to like pull one or two of them and be like,
the dark romance is kind of like up in the air because that's not, it's okay. So gothic fantasy is really atmospheric and it's really focusing on the vibes, and having the black text with the stark white pages kind of sets that tone even just by looking at the page. So that's kind of like the reasoning behind it.
Well, I mean, Anathema is definitely dark gothic.
Yes.
But you guys read it on KU, so therefore that's the part I don't understand.
Me and Jac-Ann are gonna have Anathema put on our freaking gravestones.
We're gonna do a deep dive into it.
No
I'm
joke.
Sure.
I remember you starting to plug it to me slowly,
Yes.
like starting to like plant the seed. Like
I was still reading it and I was like,
Annie, I know you'll like this. Annie, I know you're gonna like this. Annie,
we were on a live and Jac-Ann pops in and she goes, guys, this is what I'm currently reading. I need you to read this.
And
then you'd be like, the next live, because this was back when Annie and I were doing lives like all the time. You'd poke in again and be like, Annie, have you started Anathema yet? Annie, I need someone to talk to about this. Annie. And then you finally finished it.
Like anyone else. Like I can. Like I got it in me, man.
She falls to all the FOMO. Because then Jac-Ann goes, I just gave it 5 stars. And Annie goes, just downloaded it. I'll start it tonight.
Let's go.
It's very good. To kind of bring us back in.
Sorry.
Choosing your like type. So I did the cream paper because obviously I can't do the white, but I also did like custom chapter headers here, and
oh my gosh, look how pretty. Headers.
I do love that in this book.
To me, I just feel like making the decisions for this wasn't really that stressful for me because I did what I liked and what I thought looked good.
Yeah.
Because it's my book, it's like, it's an extension of me. It's my brand. And I wanted to put out something that resonated with me. And so that's what I did. I didn't focus on what other people would like so much as what I wanted to see. That's why the font is the way that it is. The margins are the way that they are, because that's what I like. I don't like tiny margins. I
appreciate this margins. So much.
Yeah.
Because me it's hard to read something that's got small print and no margins. Yes, there's just something about that in my brain. I never thought about it until I started doing all this book stuff, and I go, why does this one have white pages? Why is this text so small? Why is it this? Why is it that?
You also named all your chapters.
You did.
As well as put their POV.
So something that's kind of
chapter
unique.
Heads.
I did the chapter header names for my own purposes for editing because I I get a little bit lost in the sauce, you know, like I have 100,000 words to go through and edit, and I get confused with 4 point of views.
That makes
I was getting confused with where I was at and who knew what at what time. And I started labeling the chapters so I knew what was going on in that chapter. So if I'm reading something and, you know, it's chapter 35 and I'm like, wait, did they know this already? Did this happen already? I can go back and be like, oh, yeah, okay, so it happened in this chapter. So that happened before this. And, you know, it's a whole thing.
That's so smart.
You know, like the puzzle code on the wall, now it's in my head, you know, that whole deal, the meme. That's what it felt like. So I needed something to kind of give me that little bit of information, just enough to be like, okay, yes, that's what happened here. And then when I went to load my file into Atticus, which is the program software that I use that makes the file convertible to upload to my publishing company, which is Amazon KDP, the chapter headers copied over. And then I was like, you know what? I think I'll just leave them.
Oh, I love it.
Like, I'll just leave them. Why not?
Yeah, I love it. I like it.
I do too.
Doing chapter headers for a book too was similar also, but I had a little bit more intention because I knew I would be keeping them at that point. So I tried to make them have a little bit of intention. And actually, but right before I printed this, it was like draft 6. I changed like 3 of the chapter titles. It was like, this just isn't vibing. Like it's not giving off the right, you know, connotation for this chapter, and I need to change it. So I changed like 3 of them, just because I knew readers, I feel like, will find those little tiny things, especially if they really like your writing and they're excited about the book. They'll find these little things and they'll be like, oh, this is really cool that you put this in there. And they're like, oh, yeah. So I try to be more intentional.
when you were going through this process, then you go through, you write the story, you go into Atticus, you get it all formatted and everything. And then you said that you actually went through 6 drafts of Rise of Ruin.
Yeah.
So what's like the standard? Because that's a lot of, listen, there's a part of me that's like, I think I could only reread my own story so many times before I'm like blue in the face.
Oh, I think that has got to be the hardest part about editing. It just,
it is.
I think
like,
that's
I
why
already know what
editors
happens.
Yeah, but that's why editors are so important, because it literally just becomes like so.
You know what?
So ingrained.
We didn't even finish talking about editing. We got stuck on my process, like the first draft of Fall to Shadow, and we didn't even the rest.
So let's talk about it. Let's jump into editing, because I feel like this is a whole process.
So you write your first draft, you get some feedback, which are called alpha readers. They initially read, you know, junk draft, first draft, rough draft, whatever, draft 0. I've heard it called all different things. Basically, before you've gone in and refined it. So they go in and they give like a general impression, like, yes, this, you know, makes sense. This is great. This, I kind of didn't understand this part, or, you know, they just give you really broad feedback, and then you can go in and revise that. I recommend doing each draft that you're revising to focus on a different element of the story. That's how I do it. I think it makes the most sense, because then you're making sure that you're hitting the things that you're wanting to. And that could be, you know, big picture pieces. It could even be character arc that you're reading through to make sure that the character arc follows everything that you want it to, and it makes sense and you're laying it out correctly. For me, I do like a 50,000 word first draft, or rough draft, whatever you want to call it. I have my alpha reader. Then I go through and make edits based on what I want to change in the story or feedback that I've gotten. I implement that. And then I'm adding to it as I do that, because to me, I'm an underwriter. 50,000 words for a rough draft is really small. Especially in fantasy, you're going to be upwards of 100,000 in fantasy automatically, basically. So I go in and I see what parts are missing, what connections I need to make the story make sense. And at this point, it's developmental edits. You're looking at the big, huge picture, and you're thinking like, okay, so this is happening, and then we're here, but what got us here? We need to fill in this whole thing. And I actually have written like 20,000 words in between these 2 big chunks of plot that have happened. Because I just write the story, how it's coming to me at the time, for the rough draft. And then you go back and you reread it and you're like, this makes no sense. Like, I know where I was going, but the reader, when you read it back, you're like, the reader's going to be so lost of what happened. So you have to go in and you have to fix that and you have to add to it and make those connections and add to it. So then I get to, second, third drafts doing all of that. By that point, I have my developmental edits out of the way. Then it's more line level stuff. And you're going through and it's a lot of character work at that point. I actually, at the fourth draft of this, I added I don't even know how much scenes, a lot of scenes for backstory, because I really wanted the pacing to be better in Rise of Ruin than it was in Fall to Shadow. That was the biggest, critique that people had, was the pacing being off in Fall to Shadow. So I took that, and that was ingrained in my brain when I was writing, and I pulled back a lot of punches because I was like, oh, I don't need to give this backstory. I don't need to explain that. And then I was like, wait, yes, I do. This is important. It's backstory, but it's relevant and it connects the pieces together. So then I had to go back in and add stuff. So that was a little bit frustrating. And that's why I'm saying, when you're getting your feedback, try to take a step back and look at your intent and what is the intention of your story here. And the intent of this story is really to connect the beginning to the end. It's a bridge book. It's book 2 of the series. And I needed to make sure that I was setting things up correctly for the ending, which is crazy and wild. And I had to figure out a way to work in this crazy thing that's going to happen and kind of give you breadcrumbs to kind of give you the inkling of what's coming. And that's really the most difficult part of editing for me. And it's also the hardest because your beta readers, your alpha readers, ARC readers, nobody's really going to know what you're trying to do. And they're not going to know that you're missing those pieces. So that's the hardest part for me, is because you're the only one that can make those corrections. You're the only one that knows the story, right? So it's important to have a really great editor that you can lay it all out, word vomit, hey, this is where I'm going. This is what I want to do. And they can be like, okay, I think you need to add this here. I think you need to do that here. And you can take that step back and fill in the pieces, as it were. And I rambled a lot. I'm sorry.
No,
I think you're right on track.
So that's why the process takes so long, is I'm building the pieces. I make a structure, and then I have to go in and lay the flooring and put up the hardware. And, I have to add in all of these things. A lot of people don't do it that way. They do it the opposite. I do it that way.
I love it. I think
it's fantastic, though.
Well, I mean, listen, you got to do it your own way anyway. I mean, I think part of the hope for some of the editing, and especially if you get the right editors, is that they're catching things where you're like, hey, you had this character do this, and that doesn't really quite fit what we've seen this character do.
Yes.
You either need to go back in and create a backstory for that to make sense, or you have to pull it out. Or do you know what I mean? That's the purpose of these editors, and to catch those little pieces. And I think you could probably find some really good beta and alpha readers who probably can catch some of that too, and be like, that's out of character, or that really shocked me. I didn't see them being able to do that. And that's the purpose of, those groups and stuff that you
they're
create.
so helpful.
And
yeah.
I seriously.
Like I said, especially with my alpha reader for Fall to Shadow, I wouldn't be where I am without that person. And I've met so many great people along the way that have helped in some way, shape, or form. Fall to Shadow's acknowledgement specifically, I mentioned, Silas Seabrook. He organized an event called the Epic Release Event, and it had a whole bunch of us authors that released our books on the same day. And I got to make connections with other authors that were going through this for the first time. And it's actually how I met my line editor, Christina Cole. And we swapped works. We were critique partners, and she understood what I was intending to do on a fundamental level. And I helped her fill in her story pieces that weren't quite hitting right, or, that we just needed a little bit more. And we were able to kind of help each other and make that connection. And then we've gotten to grow together. And it's been such a cool process to watch her develop and be a part of my development. And she is the line editor for Rise of Ruin. She's actually doing editing now, actual editing, not just critique partners. And then I also have Alexis Augustine at Oak and Dagger Editing. She proofread Fall to Shadow, and she alpha read Rise of Ruin because she really gets the characters. Ooh. And
don't be throwing things.
but she really connects with the characters, and she alpha read for me, and I really wanted the feedback on the character development of the book. It's really crazy because she read like a 40,000 word draft of the book, and the last I feel so bad. The last like 6 chapters were just like a paragraph of what the chapter is going to have. And it wasn't even a full chapter. And she read it and she was able to give me feedback. And it was so incredibly helpful. And I think that's something that's really cool about being an indie author is you get to make these connections and friendships even, and get so many different people's perspective on things. Even if they don't read or write your genre, you get to make these connections and see things from a different point of view. If you get a person that enjoys horror and they read my book and they're like, hey, this scene you could do this or that, they have a different perspective than somebody that reads romance that's going to point out different things. Sure. And that's something really cool about being an indie author is you get to make these connections and be part of this community, because it is a community. We're all in this together. We're all stumbling through. We're all figuring things out as we go.
No, it's a community for sure.
So you've gone through the process of editing, you've got it in, you're doing all the things. Let's talk about the covers, because I told Annie we would come back to this.
Thank you very much.
And
let's come back.
I did not want to forget. So what was the process of cover book 1 and cover for book 2?
Okay, so both of my covers are made on Canva using Canva Pro. It's a subscription, a software program that you can get, and it has stock images that you can create all kinds of things, graphics, covers, whatever you would like. It's very versatile. Cover design for Fall to Shadow was a process. I knew that I didn't have the funds to pay somebody to design the cover for me. So then I get, this story written and I'm like, I want to publish this. And I'm like, I need a cover of some kind. So I start looking into different programs that have licensed material that you're able to use. And I stumbled upon Canva, tried some things out. I have like probably 6 different versions of the cover, and nothing was quite looking right. Some of them were pretty rough. A couple of them were like, okay, I see something here. The one that I ended up landing on before the actual cover was black and gold, which are the colors of Cobalt Kingdom where we're at most of the time in Fall to Shadow. And something just still wasn't quite right. I'm like, I need something different. Like there needs to be something. It was a black background with the same sword and the gold magic around it, and it just needed more. So then I start looking through, because I'm like, our setting is in the dark forest, or the dark forest. Our setting is in a forest, and it needs to be dark because the themes are dark. So then I start looking into that, and I ended up stumbling upon, the image that you see in the background, and I just felt like it conveyed almost like the darkness, but almost the hope shining through. And that's a theme that's carried throughout the whole book, is this glimmer of hope and things that could be different. And that's kind of what our MMC wants, is he wants something different. He wants something more than what he's had. He's not happy, and he goes on this journey, and things happen from there. But I feel like your cover needs to convey the story, it needs to convey the genre, and it needs to convey the tone, and that's going to attract the readers that you want. Because if somebody picks up your cover and it's not what they get inside of the cover, they're going to DNF, they're going to leave you a bad review, they're not going to be happy, it's not a good experience for you or for them. So I really tried hard to make sure that my cover conveyed what was going to be inside the book without being too graphic, too romantic, because I didn't want somebody going into the book thinking that you were going to get all of this romance, and it was a dark fantasy romance with a heavy emphasis on this plot line that wasn't really intended. It was intended to be a dark fantasy with the romantic elements, kind of trickled through. So I really tried to make sure that it wasn't too pretty of a cover. It was very stressful trying to be like, okay, is somebody going to pick this up and get the wrong impression?
Yeah.
So then we get Rise of Ruin. I wanted to have similar covers, but I wanted to make sure that it was different, because book 2 obviously is different. And it has a different tone. The tone of Rise of Ruin is very much different than Fall to Shadow. Fall to Shadow, you're like going into this story, kind of like in the picture, you're kind of going into this forest, and you're understanding the world and everything going on, the magic, all of that. Rise of Ruin is more about facing things head on and almost embracing the darkness that's happening, the magic that's happening, magic, embracing the magic is a really heavy plot line throughout the whole book. Is you have like these really powerful characters that have no idea what they're doing and they're completely overwhelmed. And I didn't want to have a story that was like, oh, I have all these powers and I'm super cool now and I'm going to go do all these things, even though I just got these powers. That's not what happens here. You're very much going through the struggle. And I felt like the sword with the magic kind of twirling around it kind of conveys the storm of emotions and magic that these characters are trapped in this book.
For sure.
And the red, I had originally dark shadow magic, and it just looked, I don't know, there was something missing. Kind of like with Fall to Shadow, I was like, something's missing here. And the red magic, it's not like the magic itself in the book is red. It's more about what it's conveying. It's a very powerful color. There's very powerful emotional distraughtness happening. There is some violence and some not safe for work things that are happening. And red just seemed like the fitting color. There is, I won't give too much away because it is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but there is some crimson smoke fog situation that happens that kind of also makes sense in that regards, but nobody would know that just from looking at the cover. So it's not worth mentioning too deeply, but if you are reading it, you'll be like, oh, hey, and it'll be like a cool little Easter egg moment that you'll get to be like,
Totally.
oh, okay, that makes
Well,
sense.
now I know.
And
yes,
now you know.
spoiler, Laura.
So I'm gonna find that Easter egg.
Covers are difficult. You really have to be intentional with when you're designing it, especially if you're designing it yourself. It needs to convey professionalism. It needs to convey your genre, your tone, like all of the things that I mentioned. And my best advice for anybody going through that process and doing what I did with making your own is research. Research the books that are similar to yours or the give the same vibes. Even if you can't find a book that's has your plot line, like how we're always looking for comp titles, comparative titles that have the same themes that we could be like, oh, if you liked this, then you'll like this.
Totally.
It's the most difficult thing. I still have not found books really to compare Fall to Shadow to. So if anybody thinks of that, please let me know. But that's really difficult to do. But if you know your intention behind the story, if you know your tone, the genre, you can do a little bit of research and make sure that your book cover is in line with that. And that's what I did for these covers.
I love it.
They're so pretty. I
Thank
just love
you.
the red. It's so catchy. It's funny to note that I think when you started posting the cover, you were getting flagged on the TikTok
Yes.
because it was like it looked like blood or something like that, or I don't know. Like they just kept every time you were posting stuff, you're like, seriously, they just took another one of mine down, another one of mine down.
Sword, and you've got red, so I mean, it's not like a huge jump, but I mean, seriously, look
I think it
is a little bit deeper.
Yeah. TikTok
But
literally was
flagged.
just flagging the crap out of it, and I was getting irritated too because I'm like, I can't repost it.
Are they still doing it?
Oh yeah. Every single time I appeal it, and then it goes through, but then it marks it 18 plus, which is fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Yeah. But it's just that initial period when you post something is like the most crucial. If it gets sent out to the initial 100 or whatever it is, 300, and you don't get enough likes, then it's not going to push it out to the FYP. So when you get flagged, it takes you off the FYP until you get your appeal approved, and then it can send you back out. As far as I know, it doesn't send you back out to the FYP.
It doesn't send you back out to FYP, but it barely even touches your followers. That's like the hardest part, I think, in marketing, especially when you have a very strong presence on TikTok, for them to be like, oh, flag, oh, flag, oh, flag.
Do you ever get Instagram to flag it?
I haven't had Instagram flag it, although I am not as active on Instagram, so I don't post on there as much. So is potentially going to get flagged on Instagram if I post more. But so far I haven't really had it because the graphics that I'm using on Instagram are zoomed out. Like it's not just the cover. It's usually like information that I'm sharing on there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key. And that's what I've been trying to do on TikTok as well. And I've had some luck with that. I still get flagged sometimes, especially the images that I attach to my marketing. Some of them are on the graphic side because it is dark fantasy. So I do get flagged for that sometimes too. So yeah, marketing's fun.
TikTok loves you.
It does. This has been so much fun chatting and gabbing.
Well, it's fun because sometimes we don't always get to see your pretty face
I know.
when we chit chat. So it's nice we actually get to see you.
Yes, hello. Here's my face.
I know.
I
It's
always-
usually me and Laura's face. Stuck on stuff.
We're tired of looking at our mugs.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But
No, I just want to reiterate again, like I'm really excited for you. I love doing my reread of Fall the Shadow. I'm actually really happy that I did it.
Yes.
To move into Rise of Ruin, and so far I'm loving it, and I love the beginning. I thought it was so catchy, it was so brilliant. I am excited to see where it goes.
I am
agree.
nervous to see where it goes for you.
Actually, I am
Is
a little
it?
bit too, just by the
Because
amount
you
of
know
time
me.
she's called me. And she goes, I'm worried.
There's some things that happen in this book. This book is definitely darker than Fall to Shadow. Some things happen. The characters are going through it for sure. So I'm curious
I
to
love
see what you think.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Well, I'm buckled in. So
Yeah. Well, Jac-Ann,
once I start a book, I don't stop. So
it's true.
once I'm
This
in,
is true.
I go.
Awesome.
Yep, she
Well,
goes,
release date is coming up. You know, you got
Yeah.
a couple days to
I
finish
got a couple
before
days
release
left.
date comes out.
it's
May
going to be
15th.
so exciting. We can't wait for this one to hit the shelves and hit KU for everybody. So for everybody who is looking to follow you, Jac-Ann, where can they find you?
The best place is going to be on TikTok. I'm the most active on TikTok. All of my stuff is in my link tree there. So if you want to connect with me other places, you can do that. I'm not as active on Instagram, but I do have one. I have a Facebook page, and I also have a Discord. So if you are a reader and you are enjoying or taking your first steps into the world, you can message me for a link for the Discord. It is a private Discord just to make sure that it stays a safe place for everybody to chat amongst everybody. But it's really fun. It's a great place. You have chapters chat where you can, post reactions per chapter and see what other people have said. So that's something really cool that you can do also.
Yeah.
Well, we're so excited for you, my dear. Release day will be May 15th. So everybody go check it out and go give Jac-Ann a follow. She's absolutely an amazing human being. So
Thank you.
super excited for you, my dear.
Way happy.
Thank you for having me, guys.